We've seen these moves by the Chinese characterized in many different ways. You know, Mark Mobius called them desperate measures. How do you describe these?
Well, when you think about it, it is entirely rational what they have done. So they have tamed the markets for the past 2 days, which is a major victory. While it is a victory, it might be a Pyrrhic victory because it's a setback for reform. They have set as their central promise of the economic agenda that we will let the markets play a more decisive role in the economy by 2020. So they've, it's a little setback
except when the markets tank.
Exactly.
Right? There's like one big caveat.
But that is the point. So clearly they're more comfortable with a command and control economy.
Right.
But for the Chinese Communist Party, for them, their legitimacy derives from economic performance. And now with 8.8% of all of the Chinese population investing in the stock market, that's a huge number when you think about 1.3 billion people. For them, these people, of course, they don't want them protesting. They don't want unhappy investors protesting in the streets. But they also realize that this gets at their legitimacy because they are not raising the standards of living. They're not performing economically. So for them, this is a government and a party with deep pockets. What's a little bit of a delay in reform when it gets at their legitimacy?
When I think of China, I think of the great leap forward, but you've written that it is also about a lurch forward or a lurch in one direction or another. What do you mean by that?
China really cares about stability, and so it goes through long periods of stability. We've seen a really nice period of stability since the economic crisis. But China also is very unpredictable. It has the capacity to be incredibly unpredictable. And when it is unpredictable, we see these huge lurches because it doesn't have a resilient economy. It doesn't have something to absorb the shocks. It just lurches, and we're seeing that right now.
You know, Sheryl, I was reading an article from another China expert who was saying, the government has kind of a good control over the urbanites in China, right? They're doing well. They're earning money. In terms of the 700 million or so rural people in China, they're not invested in the stock market, right? So they kind of have their idea already how to sort of quote unquote control them. But it's like the 300 million or so migrant workers who go back and forth between the countryside to the cities. Are they the ones that are invested in the stock market? Is that why the government is so worried about that populace?
I think that it isn't just that populace. The surveys that they've taken show that probably the majority, or maybe something like 75% to 80% of the investors are people with only a middle school education. That also includes a large swath of the middle class, and that's kind of they care about that population of China. And so for them, and if it's 8.8% of the entire population, that's a significant portion. But it also is a visible attack on their legitimacy. So that's why they really care about these people. They don't want protests. They also don't want an attack on their legitimacy as, the ruling party.
What about the credibility and the legitimacy of the president of China?
Well, that also, when you attack legitimacy of the party, you're attacking the leaders of the party. And so that's a really important factor. We don't know enough about where Xi Jinping wants to take China. So clearly he has stated that the reform is something that he really cares about, but he also, on the other front, you mentioned the social controls. He has really clamped down on every aspect of social controls. Whether it's just the internet, whether it's dissidents and Tibet regions we know about, but in terms of the media, he's clamped down on the media, entertainment, internet controls. So where is he taking?
So he wants reform, but then he's also but then he doesn't. Essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We don't know what his vision of China yet is. He obviously wants a strong China. He's really making huge moves in the South China Sea, so he wants China to be strong. But is he going to take it does he want to become like a Putin?